The courtroom was silent as the judge prepared to read the verdict. ASAP Rocky, once known for his chart-topping music and trend-setting style, now stood before the court, facing a fate that could change his life forever. His high-profile trial had captivated the world for months, with fans and critics alike waiting anxiously to see whether he would walk free or spend decades behind bars. As the judge's voice filled the room, the tension became unbearable. When the words "guilty, 24 years in prison," were spoken, gasps echoed throughout the courtroom. The cameras zoomed in on Rihanna, who sat in the front row, visibly shaken, her eyes filled with tears. This wasn't just a legal battle for Rocky, it was a devastating moment for their entire family. How did things spiral so drastically? Just a year ago, ASAP Rocky and Rihanna were living their best lives, traveling the world, building a family, and enjoying their success. Now he was being led away in handcuffs while Rihanna stood frozen in disbelief. What really happened? And is there any way back from this? Let's break down the events that led to this shocking moment. The 2021 shooting incident, how it all began. ASAP Rocky's legal nightmare began on a night that was supposed to be just another evening in Los Angeles. It was November 2021, and what started as a heated argument between Rocky and ASAP Terrell Efron, soon spiraled into a criminal case that would shake the hip-hop industry. According to prosecutors, the confrontation between Rocky and Relly was the result of long-standing tensions within the ASAP mob. Once close friends and collaborators, the two had allegedly been at odds over money, loyalty, and personal disputes. That night, Rocky reportedly asked Relly to meet him in a secluded Hollywood location. But what happened next would lead to a court battle that could cost him his freedom. Relly claimed that upon arriving at the meeting spot, the situation quickly turned hostile. In his testimony, he stated that Rocky pulled out a gun and fired multiple shots at him, one of which grazed his hand, causing a minor injury. Relly insisted that Rocky's actions were intentional and meant to send a warning, and the police report backed up his claims with witness statements and alleged video footage. Rocky, however, denied the accusations from the start. His legal team argued that Relly had fabricated the story and was exaggerating the events to build a case against him. They also pointed out that there was no hard evidence linking Rocky to the shooting, apart from Relly's statement in an unclear surveillance video that had yet to be fully analyzed. Despite Rocky's denial, the investigation moved forward. Detectives reviewed security footage, gathered witness testimonies, and examined the crime scene, searching for any evidence that could prove Rocky's involvement. By the time police gathered enough information to charge him, Rocky had no idea what was coming. Months later, just as he thought the situation had died down, he and Rihanna were returning from a romantic trip to Barbados. But instead of heading home, Rocky was met with dozens of armed officers waiting for him on the airport tarmac. In a matter of seconds, he went from a rap superstar stepping off a private jet to a criminal suspect being led away in handcuffs. This unexpected arrest shocked fans worldwide, but for Rihanna, it was nothing short of heartbreaking. She had just entered the final months of her pregnancy, preparing for one of the happiest moments of her life, only to watch the father of her child being arrested in front of cameras, security, and flashing lights. But this was only the beginning. As Rocky was booked into Los Angeles County Jail, prosecutors prepared to take their case to court, determined to prove that he wasn't just guilty, he was dangerous. The arrest and legal proceedings, a case that made headlines. ASAP Rocky's arrest at Los Angeles International Airport, LAX, on April 20th, 2022, was nothing short of a media spectacle. The rapper, who had just returned from a trip to Barbados with Rihanna, was immediately taken into police custody, leaving fans in the entertainment world in shock. Law enforcement officers had been building their case in secret, waiting for the perfect moment to arrest Rocky without warning. As soon as he stepped off the private jet, he was surrounded by a team of armed officers who handcuffed him and took him into custody right in front of Rihanna. For Rihanna, who was heavily pregnant at the time, this moment was devastating. What was supposed to be a routine return home turned into a nightmare unfolding in real time. Photographers and media outlets captured the entire arrest, and within minutes, headlines around the world declared, ASAP Rocky arrested for assault with a deadly weapon. What were the charges? Rocky was officially charged with 2 counts of assault with a firearm, stemming from the alleged 2021 shooting incident involving his former friend ASAP Relly. Prosecutors claimed that they had strong evidence proving that Rocky had pulled the trigger and intended to harm Relly. The case against Rocky was based on Relly's testimony, in which he claimed Rocky fired at him multiple times. Surveillance footage that prosecutors allege captured the altercation. Witness statements from people in the area who said they heard gunfire. Rocky's legal team immediately denied the accusations, calling them exaggerated and false. They argued that Relly was fabricating the story for personal gain, and that the alleged video evidence was inconclusive at best. Just hours after Rocky's arrest, police raided his Los Angeles home in search of the firearm used in the shooting. A SWAT team arrived at his mansion, executed a search warrant, and seized multiple guns from his property. However, none of the firearms found at his home matched the weapon allegedly used in the shooting. This raised serious questions. If the prosecution's case was so strong, why hadn't they found direct evidence linking Rocky to the crime? Many fans and legal analysts began to wonder if Rocky was being unfairly targeted, with some suggesting that the case against him was weak and that prosecutors were relying on media pressure to build public opinion against him. Despite the severity of the charges, Rocky quickly posted his $550,000 bail and was released from custody just hours after his arrest. But the legal battle was only beginning. His first court appearance drew massive media attention, with journalists, fans, and critics watching closely as prosecutors and his defense team laid out their arguments. The judge ruled that Rocky could remain free while awaiting trial, but he was ordered to surrender his passport and was barred from leaving the country until the case was resolved. The stakes were higher than ever. With trial preparations underway, it became clear that this case wasn't just about Rocky's innocence or guilt. It was about his entire future. If convicted, he faced up to 10 years in prison, which could destroy his career. A permanent criminal record affecting his ability to tour internationally. Millions in legal fees and possible civil lawsuits from Relly. And perhaps the most painful consequence of all, the possibility of being separated from Rihanna and their child for years. The weight of the trial was crushing, but Rihanna refused to abandon him. She stood by his side, determined to support him through the biggest fight of his life. But as the trial approached, tensions reached an all-time high. The courtroom was about to become the battleground where Rocky's fate would be decided. Inside the courtroom, heated arguments and shocking testimonies. As ASAP Rocky's trial began, the entire world watched. This wasn't just another celebrity court case. This was a high-profile legal battle that could decide the fate of one of hip-hop's biggest stars. The prosecution was determined to secure a conviction, while Rocky's defense team was equally committed to proving his innocence. But no one was prepared for the explosive testimonies and dramatic confrontations that would unfold in the courtroom. One of the most anticipated moments of the trial was the testimony of ASAP Relly, the alleged victim. Once considered a close friend and member of the ASAP mob, Relly was now the key witness against Rocky, claiming that his former friend had pulled a gun on him and fired multiple shots during a heated argument. In a chilling moment, Relly described the incident in detail, saying, "I trusted him. We were like family. But that night, everything changed. I saw the gun. I heard the shots. I thought I was going to die." His words sent shockwaves through the courtroom, but Rocky's defense team quickly went on the attack. Rocky's lawyers fight back, discrediting Relly's story. Rocky's legal team had one major goal: to prove that Relly was lying or exaggerating the incident. During the cross-examination, Rocky's lawyer grilled Relly, questioning his motives. Why did Relly wait so long to report the alleged shooting? Why was there no clear evidence of gunshot residue on Rocky? Was Relly using this lawsuit for financial gain? At one point, Rocky's lawyer challenged Relly's credibility, bringing up past incidents where he had filed lawsuits against former associates. The defense suggested that Relly had a history of making false claims for financial compensation. This turned the trial in Rocky's favor as doubt began to spread. Was this really a case of attempted assault, or was Relly taking advantage of the legal system to go after Rocky? Prosecutors claimed to have video footage of the shooting, But when it was finally shown in court, it didn't deliver the clear-cut proof they had promised. The video was grainy, distant, and unclear. While it showed a confrontation between Rocky and Relly, it did not definitively prove that Rocky fired a gun. This was a major win for the defense, as they argued that the footage was open to interpretation. One legal analyst even commented, "This video raises more questions than answers. If this is their strongest piece of evidence, Rocky might just walk free." Throughout the trial, Rihanna was in the courtroom, standing by Rocky's side. But one moment that broke the internet was when the prosecution described the potential sentence Rocky was facing, up to 24 years in prison. As those words echoed through the courtroom, Rihanna was seen wiping away tears, visibly shaken by the reality of what could happen. It was a rare moment of vulnerability from one of the strongest women in the industry, and it sent fans into an emotional frenzy online. Rocky speaks, the moment everyone was waiting for. After days of intense testimony and legal arguments, Rocky finally took the stand to tell his side of the story. His demeanor was calm but firm. He denied ever pulling a gun on Relly and claimed that their argument was nothing more than a heated exchange between two former friends. "I would never do something like that," he said. "I built my career on hard work, not violence. This isn't who I am." His testimony was powerful and emotional, but would it be enough to convince the jury? With closing arguments set to begin, one question remained. Would ASAP Rocky walk free, or was he about to lose everything? The final verdict, gasps, tears, in a moment that stunned the world. The tension inside the courtroom was unbearable. ASAP Rocky, once the face of hip-hop's new wave, now sat motionless, waiting to hear whether he would walk free or spend the next 2 decades behind bars. The jury had spent days deliberating, going over testimonies, evidence, and arguments from both sides. Rocky's fate was now out of his hands. His legal team had fought hard to poke holes in the prosecution's case, but the severity of the charges loomed over him. When the judge returned to the courtroom, the entire room fell silent. Reporters, fans, and even celebrities had filled the seats, waiting to hear the verdict that could change everything. The judge speaks, a career on the line. The judge adjusted his glasses, looked over at Rocky, and read the final decision. In the case of the People versus Rakim Mayers, also known as ASAP Rocky, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Gasps filled the room. Some covered their mouths in shock, while others sat frozen, unable to process the words that had just been spoken. Rocky lowered his head, his hands clasped tightly together. His once unshakable confidence was replaced with a look of disbelief and devastation. But the shock didn't end there. The judge delivered the sentence. The court hereby sentences Rakim Mayers to 24 years in state prison. The courtroom erupted. Gasps turned into outrage, sobbing and confusion. Reporters rushed to update their headlines. ASAP Rocky sentenced to 24 years in prison. Rihanna's breakdown. A heartbreaking moment. As the verdict was read, all eyes turned to Rihanna. For the first time in the trial, she couldn't hold back her emotions. Tears streamed down her face as she reached for a tissue, her hands visibly shaking. The cameras caught her whispering, in disbelief, this wasn't just a legal loss. This was a life-changing moment for her, Rocky, and their family. The father of her children was just sentenced to nearly 2.5 decades in prison. The reality hit her hard. Would her kids grow up without their father? Would Rocky even have a career to return to after his release? The reactions, a divided public. As soon as the verdict hit the internet, the world reacted immediately. Social media exploded with the hashtag #FreeASAP Rocky trending on Twitter, while fans, fellow celebrities, and activists voiced their opinions on the case. Some believed that justice had been served, arguing that Rocky's violent past caught up with him. Others felt that the sentence was excessive, claiming that Rocky had been targeted unfairly due to his status as a black celebrity. Hip-hop legends, athletes, and even politicians spoke out, calling for a review of the case. Some compared it to past instances where white celebrities received lighter sentences for similar crimes. Among the most vocal supporters was fellow rapper Drake, who took to Instagram writing, 24 years, that's crazy. We gotta do something about this. Meanwhile, Relly and his legal team celebrated the ruling, calling it a victory for justice. Relly himself released a statement saying, I never wanted this, but I needed to stand up for myself. No one should think they can get away with violence just because they're famous. Despite the devastating sentence, Rocky's legal team is not giving up. His lawyers have immediately filed an appeal, hoping to get the sentence overturned or reduced. Legal experts say that if Rocky's team can prove inconsistencies in the prosecution's case, there's a chance he could get a new trial or a shorter sentence. But appeals take time, months, sometimes even years. Until then, Rocky will be behind bars while Rihanna must decide how to move forward without him. This trial may be over, but the story is far from finished. The aftermath, social media reactions and industry. Fallout. The moment A$AP Rocky's 24-year prison sentence was announced, the world reacted with a mix of shock, outrage, and disbelief. Within minutes, social media was flooded with reactions as fans, celebrities, and industry insiders weighed in on what many were calling one of the most controversial celebrity trials in recent history. Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok exploded with heated debates, with millions using the hashtag #FreeASAPRocky to express their frustration over the verdict. Many fans argued that Rocky's sentence was too harsh, comparing it to other high-profile cases where celebrities received lighter punishments for similar crimes. One viral tweet read, "How does A$AP Rocky get 24 years when other celebs barely get a slap on the wrist? The justice system is broken." Others defended the ruling, arguing that fame doesn't put anyone above the law. One user wrote, "Actions have consequences. If he pulled a gun on someone, he deserves the time." While social media was divided, one thing was certain. Everyone was talking about this case. The music industry was just as divided. While some artists rallied behind Rocky, others chose to stay silent or distance themselves from the controversy. Drake, Travis Scott, and The Weeknd were among the first to publicly support Rocky, calling for a legal appeal. Drake, who has collaborated with Rocky in the past, wrote on Instagram, "They did my brother dirty. We're not letting this slide. It's #FreeASAPRocky." On the other hand, some industry figures remain quiet, possibly to avoid controversy. Even Jay-Z and Kanye West, who have worked with Rocky before, did not publicly comment on the verdict, leading to speculation that they were trying to protect their own brands. Meanwhile, some rappers took a different stance, subtly criticizing Rocky's past behavior. One unnamed source from the hip-hop world told media outlets, "A lot of people in the industry saw this coming. He's been in and out of trouble for years. This time it caught up with him. Fashion and business deals, a career in jeopardy." Beyond music, Rocky had built a reputation as a fashion icon, collaborating with brands like Dior, Gucci, and Mercedes-Benz. But with a serious criminal conviction, his business future is now uncertain. Several of his major brand partnerships are now at risk. Dior, which had previously worked with Rocky on campaigns, is reportedly reevaluating their association with him. Puma and Adidas, brands known for working with hip-hop artists, have remained silent, leading fans to wonder if they will cut ties. Luxury fashion houses, once eager to work with Rocky, may now see him as a liability rather than an asset. Industry insiders say that some companies may quietly distance themselves from Rocky to avoid bad press, while others may wait to see if his appeal leads to a reduced sentence. How Rihanna's empire is affected. While Rihanna has been supportive of Rocky, some business analysts believe that the case could indirectly impact her brand. As the CEO of Fenty Beauty, Savage X Fenty, and multiple fashion ventures, Rihanna's business empire is built on inclusivity, empowerment, and a positive image. Some investors and brand partners may feel uneasy about her public support for Rocky, especially given the severity of his conviction. However, Rihanna's fan base remains fiercely loyal, and many argue that her personal life should not affect her billion-dollar empire. One fashion analyst commented, "Rihanna's brand is bigger than any controversy. She's a powerhouse. But business is business, and some investors may see this case as a risk." What's next for A$AP Rocky? Prison, appeals, and career survival. With AAA Rocky now convicted and sentenced to 24 years in prison, his future is uncertain. His career, his family, and his freedom are all hanging in the balance. But this case is far from over. Rocky's legal team has already begun the process of filing an appeal, hoping to overturn the verdict or at least reduce his sentence. Rocky's lawyers are not giving up without a fight. Within hours of the verdict, his defense team announced that they were filing an appeal, arguing that the evidence presented was not strong enough for a conviction. The prosecution relied too heavily on ASAP Relly's testimony, which they claim was inconsistent. The surveillance footage was unclear and did not definitively show Rocky firing a gun. Legal experts say that appeals in cases like this can take months or even years, and there is no guarantee of success. However, if Rocky's lawyers can prove that his trial was unfair or that new evidence has emerged, he could be granted a new trial or a reduced sentence. One defense attorney commented, "If they can show errors in the way evidence was handled or presented, there's a real chance that his sentence could be reduced. But it's an uphill battle." What will prison life be like for Rocky? If Rocky's appeal fails, he will have to serve a significant portion of his sentence before being eligible for parole. Many fans wonder, what will life be like for Rocky in prison? Unlike his luxurious lifestyle in the music industry, prison will be a harsh adjustment. Some of the biggest challenges he may face include limited communication with Rihanna and their children. While he may be allowed occasional visits, his role as a father will be drastically changed. Little to no access to music production. Rocky has built a career on his creativity, style, and collaborations. But in prison, he won't have the freedom to create as he once did. Adapting to prison life. Despite his fame, he will have to follow the same rules as every other inmate, and his celebrity status may make him a target. However, some artists have managed to keep their careers alive from behind bars. Artists like Tupac Shakur and Gucci Mane released music while incarcerated. The question is, will Rocky try to do the same? One of the biggest unknowns in this situation is Rihanna's next move. She has been fiercely loyal to Rocky throughout the trial, attending court hearings and standing by his side. But now that he is facing decades behind bars, will she continue to wait for him, or will she decide to move on? There are three possible scenarios. 1. She remains committed to Rocky and continues to support him throughout his sentence. 2. She focuses on raising their children and distances herself from the case, keeping her personal and business life separate. 3. She eventually moves on, deciding that she cannot put her life on hold for the next 20+ years. Some fans believe that Rihanna's love for Rocky is strong enough to endure this, while others think that this trial has changed everything. One relationship expert commented, "Rihanna is one of the most powerful women in the world. If she stays with Rocky, it's because she truly loves him. But if she chooses to move on, it won't be out of disloyalty. It will be because she has to think about her own future." If Rocky's appeal is successful, or if he is eventually released on parole, there is still a chance for him to rebuild his career. However, it will not be easy. He will face major challenges, including public perception. Many fans will continue to support him, but others may never forgive him for the crime he was convicted of. Industry trust. Brands, music labels, and business partners may be hesitant to work with him due to his legal record. Rebuilding his reputation. Even if he is released early, Rocky will have to work twice as hard to regain his place in the industry. Some experts believe that Rocky could follow the path of other artists who have rebuilt their careers after legal troubles, while others say that this conviction could permanently damage his future. For now, Rocky's legal team is focused on appealing the case, while Rihanna is left to navigate an uncertain future. The coming months will determine whether he has any chance of freedom or if this truly marks the end of his legacy. As fans, critics, and the entire music industry wait for the next development, one thing is clear. This case has changed everything for Rocky, Rihanna, and the world of hip-hop. Rihanna's future, moving forward or standing still. Rocky's 24-year prison sentence hasn't just changed his life. It's completely altered Rihanna's future as well. For months, she stood by his side, attending court hearings, offering emotional support, and doing everything in her power to help him. But now that the verdict has been handed down, she faces an impossible decision. Does she wait for him, or does she move forward with her life? Rihanna and Rocky's relationship was once the picture of Hollywood perfection. They went from being close friends to partners in love and business, building a family together and sharing a future filled with success. But with Rocky now behind bars, everything has changed. For Rihanna, the hardest part of this situation is not just losing her partner, it's raising their children without him. She and Rocky welcomed their first son, RZA, in May 2022, and later their second child in 2023. Both kids were born into a world of luxury, love, and privilege. But now they will grow up without their father physically present. Rihanna has always been a strong, independent woman, but being a single mother while juggling a billion-dollar empire is an entirely new challenge. Will Rihanna wait for Rocky? While Rihanna has been loyal throughout the trial, insiders say that she is struggling with what to do next. A 24-year sentence is an incredibly long time, and even with good behavior or an appeal, Rocky could still spend a decade or more behind bars. If she chooses to stand by him, she will have to raise their children alone while waiting for his possible release, continue running her businesses while dealing with the public pressure of supporting a convicted felon, put her romantic life on hold, possibly missing out on new relationships and experiences. Some sources close to Rihanna believe that her love for Rocky is strong enough to endure this, while others believe that she will eventually move on for the sake of her own well-being. One fan commented, "Rihanna is one of the strongest women in the industry, but even she can't put her life on hold for 24 years. She has to do what's best for herself and her kids." Beyond her personal life, Rocky's conviction could have a lasting impact on Rihanna's brand. As the CEO of Fenty Beauty, Savage X Fenty, and multiple fashion ventures, Rihanna has built a reputation as a powerful, independent businesswoman. Some business experts believe that continuing to publicly support Rocky could affect her company's image, especially when it comes to investors and high-profile partnerships. Luxury brands may distance themselves if they feel that her association with Rocky damages their reputation. Investors could question the long-term stability of her empire if she becomes too involved in Rocky's legal battles. Her brand's messaging may be challenged, as Fenty has always stood for empowerment, strength, and positive role models. However, Rihanna has never been someone who lets public pressure dictate her life. She has defended her decisions before, and if she chooses to continue supporting Rocky, she will likely do so on her own terms. While Rihanna has not made any public statements about her future without Rocky, some fans and insiders believe that she may eventually move on. With Rocky in prison for potentially 2 decades, she may decide that waiting isn't realistic. Some believe that over time, she could focus entirely on motherhood and business, keeping her romantic life private. Eventually start dating again, once she's had time to heal from the emotional toll of the trial. Maintain a relationship with Rocky but transition into co-parenting from a distance. Regardless of what she chooses, one thing is clear: Rihanna's life will never be the same again. The man she once saw a future with is now behind bars, and the weight of this situation will stay with her for years to come. For now, Rihanna remains silent on her long-term plans, focusing on her children, her business, and navigating life post-trial. The world will be watching closely to see if she continues to fight for Rocky's freedom, becoming even more involved in his legal battles. Steps back from the relationship, allowing time and distance to guide her next move. Surprises everyone with a decision that no one sees coming. The only thing that's certain is that this is a defining moment in her life. No matter what happens next, Rihanna will have to make choices that will shape her future, her children's lives, and her legacy in the industry. The world is watching, and the question remains, will Rihanna wait, or is this the beginning of a new chapter? So, what do you think? Was Rocky's sentence too harsh, or was justice served? Should Rihanna continue to stand by him, or should she move on? Will Rocky's appeal be successful, or is this the end of his legacy? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any updates on this case and other breaking celebrity stories. We'll be following this situation closely, so stay tuned for more. Until next time.